There's already a million reviews of the Meike T2.1 Super-35 cinema lenses out there. I wanted to look at the actual objective resolution of this lens. So, as usual when I do my lens tests, I used an ISO 12233 chart on a music stand, well lit and as flat as possible. I don't have the time or the equipment to do a full modulation transfer function test on this lens, but I can at least give you an idea of what the resolution limit is. And the way we do that is we measure the contrast between the light areas and the dark areas, and then when the contrast has diminished by 50%, we consider that the limit of the resolution. You can actually see details finer than that, but this is the industry standard practice. All examples were shot in ultra high definition, so we should theoretically be able to resolve up to 2,000 lines. These images were captured in RAW format and converted to DNx-HR with DaVinci Resolve. I like to compare this lens against a couple of other lenses that I have. All lenses were set to approximately f5, starting with the Canon IS2 USM lens that came with my Canon C200. Here at the center of the lens, once the image stabilizes a little bit, we can see that we're resolving about 800 lines. Next we have my trusty Asahi Super Multi-Coated 50mm lens that I've been using for still photography for years. At the center we have 850 lines of resolution. Now we have the Meike 50mm Super-35 cinema lens, and we resolve about 1,000 lines at the center. I should note that I desaturated all of these examples because I want to look solely at the resolution. We'll look at chromatic aberration in a little bit. On the Canon zoom lens at the edge we have 700 lines of resolution. Now for the Asahi prime lens we have 750 lines at the edge. The Meike is 850 lines at the edge. Looking at the unprocessed images, we can see the chromatic aberrations toward the edge of the zoom lens. On the Asahi prime lens, the chromatic aberrations go in the opposite direction. And if you look at the Meike, we have almost no chromatic aberrations. As explained in my analysis of the Zenit Meteor zoom lens, the overall resolution of your system is the modulation transfer functions of all elements, including the lenses and the capture medium multiplied together. Examining the same lenses again, capturing in the Canon C200's internal MXF format in ultra-high definition. Our zoom lens now resolves 650 lines at the center. The Asahi prime lens resolves 850 lines at the center. And the Meike prime lens is also 850 lines at the center. Canon zoom lens is 550 lines at the edge. Asahi prime lens is 700 lines at the edge. And the Meike is 850 lines at the edge. We'll go back to looking at just the Meike, raw format, uncolor corrected, and compare different t-stops. T2 at the center we have about 1200 lines. At the edge about 1000 lines. T4 at the center we have 1200 lines. At the edge we have 1100 lines. And at T8 we have 1100 lines at the center and 1100 lines toward the edge. Very little chromatic aberration on all of these. It looks like under the best conditions we're resolving about 1200 lines, which on a Super-35 sensor comes to about 50 lines per millimeter. I briefly thought it would be fun to try to put this on my Krasnogorsk 3, except on a 16mm frame we'd only be resolving about 700 lines. The Zenit Meteor actually still beats this lens in that regard. I think it'd be fun to borrow a full-frame version of the same lens and see how it compares on the same camera. I believe the S35 version will outperform the full-frame version just because the tolerances are so much more critical on a full-frame lens. For instance, many full-frame 35mm still photography lenses resolve 40 or 50 lines per millimeter, and I have a cheapo 8.5mm video lens that resolves over 200 lines per millimeter. No doubt a $25,000 cinema lens designed for actual professional shooting would resolve better than this, but I'm actually pretty impressed with this lens.